Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. This is a historic event. Yes, it is. It is. After a year and a half, we're getting together again, and that's wonderful. And this is just the beginning of a new era in Salmon. We're working hard with our friends and manufacturers to continue with our routine of having events like this at least every month, or at least 10 times a year. You understand that some months are very difficult. But anyway, allow me to introduce Mr. Vice President Daniel Alvarez.
Hi everybody! Good to see you again, guys. First time after a long time. Good to see your faces. And also, I'm very glad that Kimberly is here. Big applause for her and the Stellantis group. Thank you, Kimberly. Enjoy your meal. Thank you.
Thank you. And yes, as Daniel mentioned, it couldn't be better. We have a wonderful sponsor, Stellantis, and they're introducing a wonderful vehicle. I don't know if you have a chance to see it downstairs. The new Jeep Cherokee, which is just spectacular. We're going to talk about it. We're going to have information about it during this lunch. And allow me to introduce Kimberly Schultz, Communications Manager for Stellantis.
Welcome everyone. Oh, it's so wonderful to see your faces and to be together again in person. And this meeting is kind of a combination of the two. So for people who may not want to be in a room with everyone, they can dial in, and then our Jeep team, which is really busy, this gives them a chance to dial in as well instead of stand outside in the heat and present. So because you do not want to be doing an outdoor event in July in Miami, July or August. So, and I know that from coming from Texas. So technology is allowing us to do this really neat combination of presentations. So the vehicle's downstairs for you to take a look at after the lunch. And to experience everything you see on the screen today. So we have a couple housekeeping things too. The gift on your table is a straw. And eventually, Miami will probably, not let you do straws anymore. So you need to keep that in handy in case, because I know California has some rules on straws. So that's your own personal straw. They won't give you one at the restaurant. And so we're doing our part, be environmentally friendly. Plus, we also have some new electric vehicles that I'm sure you've heard about, our 4xe. So Jeep is doing a lot of new things in the electrification area, which is very exciting. So today we will do our presentations. We'll have Scott Talon, who's the head of Jeep marketing. He's going to go over the Jeep Grand Cherokee L, like the big picture. And then we will have a presentation from Dwayne Jackson, who's in design. And following that, we will have a Q&A. And so the key to that Q&A is that you hold this, they are hearing your question through my computer microphone. So they have to be able to hear this speaker. So when you ask your question, make sure you have the mic, right up on your mouth so they can hear you through this. So we'll do the Q&A, and then following Q&A is when we'll go ahead and have our meals served, and we can chat and catch up after this exhaustive long time of not being able to see each other. So that's why this is so exciting. So let me turn my screen around and get things set up, and we'll be ready to go. Thank you.
Yes, that press, Kimberly?
Yes, okay, we are ready.
All right. I'm going to bring up the presentation.
Thank you.
Let us know when you want it to, are we good to go, or?
Yes, you're ready to go.
All right, I'll let Scott take it away.
All right, very good. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Kimberly. First of all, I just want to thank everyone for allowing us to join you today. As Kimberly already mentioned, it's an exciting time at the Jeep brand. It seems like every year we say that this year is truly special for a number of really important reasons. First and foremost, we're going to get into the product because there's a great product story happening with Jeep this year. But I'm sure many of you already know that 2021 marks another special milestone in the Jeep brand's history. It marks the 80th anniversary of the Jeep brand. If you go to the next slide, and throughout those 80 years, there are some core values that have been embedded in the brand itself and really everything we do. So even from the consumer-facing communications, certainly the product aspect of it, which we will get into more detail, but these core values really are instilled in everything we do and share with our customers. And we're very proud of the fact that 8 decades of capability, leadership, and sharing this passion to allow people to explore and have these adventures and really experience freedom in a really authentic way. It's something special for us. So when we think about the new products, this year again is a very, very busy year for the Jeep brand, and we've made a number of already significant announcements. Next page. There you go. And just to recap, some of these really important milestones that we've already announced. First and foremost, earlier this year we launched the all-new first ever electrified Wrangler, the Wrangler 4xe. It's only been in market now for about 3 months and has quickly become the #1 selling plug-in hybrid in America. In fact, both in May and June, the Wrangler 4xe was the top selling plug-in hybrid across all segments, across any brands in the U.S. So we're extremely, proud of the vehicle itself. The customers are gravitating to it. It stands out in the marketplace, and it's truly authentic. It is a better Wrangler in every way. We've improved the efficiency, the power, the performance, and of course the capability. Beyond that, we revealed earlier this year the return of another storied nameplate for the Jeep brand. That's the return of the Grand Wagoneer. More on that will come later as the vehicle comes closer to market, but really excited to bring this large SUV and redefine what American premiumness is in the marketplace. The Grand Wagoneer is something that it's really special to all of us. We're all very passionate about, and it's going to allow the Jeep brand to continue to grow into the future over the next 80 years. Beyond that, sticking with the icon of the brand, the Wrangler, we also launched the all-new Wrangler Rubicon 392. Truly a high-performance vehicle in every single sense. Off-road, absolutely an animal. The most powerful Wrangler ever built. But even on the streets, it's quite the beast. 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds in a Wrangler. 470 horsepower, 470 pound-feet of torque is the absolute ultimate in capability. But today we're going to talk a lot more about the all-new Grand Cherokee L. Obviously, this is, the Wrangler, it's the icon of the brand, there's no question. But the Grand Cherokee is clearly the flagship of the brand. First introduced almost 3 decades ago. When it first came into the marketplace was much, much different than it looks today. Let's face it, there were very few competitors in the segment place. But the Grand Cherokee stood out and quickly became a favorite among consumers for a couple of key reasons. One, it had some really bold, distinctive looks that were, unmistakably, it was still a Jeep. Secondly, 4x4 capability. And throughout that first generation, we kept improving on the premiumness and the quality and the craftsmanship of the vehicle that our customers kept yearning for. So each subsequent following generation, we kept building on that core set of values that really drove the customers and drove the demand for the vehicle. In fact, the 4th generation Grand Cherokee, by far the most expansive lineup we've ever have, expanding more into the premium space, adding additional capability with our Trailhawk model. And what we found is not only did consumers love it, but it allowed the Grand Cherokee to become the most awarded SUV ever in the marketplace. So we're extremely proud of this prior generation Grand Cherokee, but as we look forward to how are we going to continue to evolve, as you can see from the pictures here, each evolution of the Grand Cherokee is dramatically different than the prior generation. We're going to still stick to those core values that drive what we do as a brand and focus on the customer aspect of what is it that's driving those purchase decisions and going to continue to make Grand Cherokee distinctive in the marketplace. And there's a few key elements that we really focused in on and not only enhanced them on this generation, but added additional functionality and usability to the vehicle that I think will drive even more consumers to consider the Grand Cherokee as we go forward. So we're going to go a little bit deeper into each of these areas. First, nice. Well, that was a nice transition slide. You just go back. I love that picture of the Grand Cherokee. There it is, and it's what I would consider its natural habitat. Looks as at home in a parking lot as much as it does on the trail. What a stunning vehicle. But I say this is its natural environment because at its core, capability is still at the core of everything that we do. Jeep capability is legendary. It has been for 80 years and will continue to be a hallmark of the brand. So as we look forward to this next generation in terms of capability, maybe the next slide, please. We're going to build on that from the 4th generation. In fact, every single Grand Cherokee now, 4x4, will come with an active transfer case. And what that does is manage the torque between the axles and allows the vehicle to apply the most power to where the most tractive force is within the vehicle. So now every Grand Cherokee will have an active transfer case for this next generation. Beyond that, we've enhanced our Quadralift air suspension. The Quadralift air suspension now has 10.9 inches of ground clearance and allows the Grand Cherokee to water ford up to 24 inches of water. Best in class, 24 inches of water fording. Furthermore, remaining with that class leading, outside of our showroom, class leading, class exclusive 7,200 pounds of towing capacity with the V8 and 6,200 pounds of towing with the V6. So building on that utility, but building on that capability and making sure that now we've enhanced with a more advanced, a more sophisticated traction management system, even in our base system with an active transfer case. Beyond the capability, I think this can be said for any segment. It comes down to technology and safety. This is just a cost of entry. Vehicles, regardless whether it's a commuter vehicle, a family vehicle, safety is always going to be at the top of every consumer's consideration list. So when we thought about this next generation and the suite of safety technologies that we wanted to embed into the vehicle from the very beginning as standard, we really want to surpass anything in the marketplace. So what we're offering is the most comprehensive suite of standard safety features on every single trim of Grand Cherokee. And many of these are very advanced safety features that were only optional in the marketplace today. For example, adaptive cruise control with full stop and go, rear cross path detection, the active lane management, advanced brake assist, blind spot monitoring, full speed forward collision warning, now with pedestrian and cyclist protection. All these are now standard on every trim level of the Grand Cherokee. But building on that, there is a full suite of really high-tech advanced safety features for those individuals that really want to take it to the next level. For example, heads-up display, but you also have an active night vision camera. That's a class exclusive for the Grand Cherokee, something we're really proud of. And personally, I can tell you that I've experienced it and it works very well. Not only did it save the front end of the Jeep, but it also did a possum one night really late. So it's a really slick feature and a class exclusive. New 360-degree surround view camera for those tight parking spots or whether you're on the trail will come in handy. So not only are we really excited about the standard safety suite that is the most comprehensive in the industry today, but we've brought in these really high-tech advanced safety features for those individuals that just want that next level of technology and safety. Dwayne will get much more into this as we go forward, but one of the hallmarks of the Grand Cherokee and really what puts it into this spectrum of premiumness is exactly the design and the craftsmanship, the attention to detail that goes into every single vehicle. And starting with the exterior design, when we talk to our customers, undoubtedly when we ask them, what is it that drew you to the Grand Cherokee initially? Almost every single time the answer is just that, the design. I like the way the vehicle looks. So we knew that this next generation Grand Cherokee had to be beautiful on the exterior, had to be striking from every angle, but it also had to be distinctly Jeep. Our customers like that their vehicle stands out in a parking lot and it's instantly recognizable as a Jeep. So sticking with that DNA, Dwayne will talk a lot more about the interior, but the interior is really a special place to be. And the attention to detail that went into the interior, from the stitching to the placement of everything, to even the shifter itself. Just the detail and the debate and discussion we had over just the shifter and the design of it, the feel of it, the look of it. All those were taken into consideration. So there's a level of premiumness with the materials that we've used in the interior, and the attention to detail that I think that really surpasses the customer's expectations. And really, it brings together a total package that keeps those great proportions, distinctly a Grand Cherokee, but really a bold, new, distinctive design that has really, garnered a lot of attention so far in the market. And really the big news when we talk about the all-new Grand Cherokee L is exactly that. Is the addition of that new letter L. That designation is the first time ever that we have added a third row option for the Grand Cherokee. We saw many years, as I mentioned, the segment is much different than it was when we first launched the Grand Cherokee in 1992. While there were only a few competitors, we all had a very similar configuration. As the marketplace has evolved, over 70% of this segment today is comprised of three-row offerings. So we knew that we had to expand this because we were losing customers that just needed that extra utility or that seating capacity. So when we did it, we had to do it in a very authentic, in a very credible kind of way. So the packaging was critically important into the overall design and the interior of the vehicle. The third row itself, we know because one of our engineers, he is 6'4". It was called the Mario test. If Mario could sit in the back seat comfortably in the third row without hitting his head or his knees touching the second row seats, we knew that we could get the package right. So it can easily accommodate 2 average size adults. Furthermore, the second row maintains best-in-class legroom. So there's no compromise to the third row passenger. It's not the penalty box. It's actually a very accommodating seat with luxury features, cup holders, USB ports, everything you're going to need, but at the same time, not compromising the second row. And needless to say, the front row passengers are pampered with the tremendous amount of premium and luxuriness that Dwayne is going to go a little bit more detail on for you here, Tom.
Kimberly, I'm going to kick it over to Dwayne if he's ready to go, and he'll dive into some of the more intricate details of the interior.
Yes, I will. Sorry, I'm just getting my share started up here. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay? Yeah. Okay, great.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
So my name is Dwayne Jackson. I'm the chief designer for Jeep and Wagoneer interiors at Stellantis. And I'm happy to join you guys today. I wish I could do it in person. I'm originally born in New York, raised in Miami, went to school at a school called Dash, if some of you know. It's a design school, so some of my designs have come from the Miami area. But I just want to start by saying, I'm honored to be a part of this team of designers, engineers, brand team. Such a great working experience. And this image that I have up here just kind of like is describing, there's beauty and contrast, right? There's black and chrome, there's hard metal, plastic surfaces, and soft leather surfaces, similar to typically the dynamic between engineering and design. Typically, designers want, the flashy things, and engineers want, things that just work, and it doesn't matter what it looks like. So there's always a tussle. I always link it or combine it with, it's like a family. You have brothers and sisters that you don't necessarily agree with, but you come together to create something beautiful like a motorcycle that you're seeing here, and that's beauty and the contrast is what you're seeing. And I think that's what helps us to put together such a great product. It stands out because we have had those tussles. We've gone far to the left, far to the right. We've gone up, down. We've gone everywhere to figure out, what's the best balance for this vehicle. And for sure, I think we've done the best Grand Cherokee to date. So I'm going to go ahead and run through just a few sketches to give you a little bit of the feel of what our designers envision even before we get into building surfaces and putting things together. So this is a little bit more detailed, but it kind of gives you the feel for where we start. It's like just trying to sketch something that is a little bit more linear, a little bit more modern, uplifting. And so the color breakups that you see here are defining areas of soft treatments and functional areas. And we haven't forgotten about, trying to think about the whole vehicle altogether and how that feels, how things flow from the front door into the rear door. Because of course, if you're sitting in the rear, you look at the front and how does everything tie in? And that's kind of what we're showing here in this sketch. The current Grand Cherokee is not a bad vehicle. What we had done in this vehicle is sort of like build a vehicle around pockets or islands of functionality. The radio integrated, radio center stack, and the cluster and your air vents. And it wrapped it in soft elements. And it's still linear, and we haven't lost that feel in the new design of the current, or the new Grand Cherokee, I should say. We started with what you're seeing now as a structural element, is what we call it, a cross-car wing. It's a metal piece that goes the span of the width of the IP, and that helps to define specific areas within the vehicle. We then started to define areas of functionality like the vents that allowed us to do a lot of really cool, neat things within the interior to package it well. So the vents are very slim. They're stuck high up on the IP so that some of the other things can be filled in, like the decorative elements and the radio. So it's a little bit more focused, central to the vehicle, a little bit more balanced. And that all comes in and starts to give you this warm feel and enlarging feel of the interior. And that's what you're seeing here today. So it's a little bit of the design development as to how we went from a sketch to the real thing. That contrast that I was talking about lies in a lot of the details that we look at. This is just the stirrup, the horse, the saddle, the cold metal functional area with the soft area that you interact with. We have a lot of little details in the car. Please go and explore all the areas of the car. Everything has been touched and refined with purpose. This is a picture of the IP end cap. When you open the door, it's very subtle. There's a texture on the end cap, and the since 1941 is engraved into that surface. And then, of course, the leather portion of the IP then wraps into the interior. We like to make sure that we call attention to the design and the artistry. We call it artisans. We're all artisans. Our engineers, our brand team. We are crafting an interior. We're not necessarily designing and putting it together, just putting parts in the vehicle. We are actually paying attention to how things come together, where the surfaces interface one another. There are many parts in the car, and so we pay attention to how things are placed. The start button, it's not just stuck onto the wood. There's a scallop in the wood to receive the start button. The same thing with the radio. As the wood gets towards the radio, it swells up and encapsulates the radio. These are all little refined details that we feel make the vehicle very premium, and we're proud of that fact. We haven't looked at just the sculpture in authentic materials like the wood. We've also looked at functional areas. For example, here we're showing the label of, or the branding of the Jeep. Placed in a labeled area that's really refined and elongated, helps the width of the vehicle, but also the switches have scalloped features, so you know that where your fingers are placed, you know where the functions are without even looking. As Scott mentioned, the shift knob, a lot of tough discussions, hard discussions. I almost cried because I love this pattern and we almost lost it, but we saved it. I think it's a very proud moment when you sit inside the vehicle and you touch that knob. It is a true metal piece. It's heft. It's got some weight even when you're shifting into drive or just shifting the vehicle altogether. But that pattern is undulating surfaces that are scalloped, and it's a really nice touch and feel. This is, of course, a close-up view so you can see it alongside the toggles that control your ride height and your select range. Some of the detail here, this exploded view kind of shows you what's happening with that shift knob. So it's a tactile feel, but also a visual texture that you cannot feel. Is that clear lens that you see there, that third piece, I think you can see my cursor, this piece here, it's a clear lens that at night does give off a nice soft glow of light. So it's nice that when you open the door, you see where your shifter is and you have a nice feeling within the interior. Here's a better view of where that shifter is placed into the interior. We've worked very diligently as well with Macintosh. They're our new partner with our premium audio. And of course, Macintosh home audio equipment is the pinnacle of home audio equipment. And we wanted to make sure that we paid attention to every little detail that's within the Macintosh home equipment, because as the name brand that comes into an automotive manufacturer, you want to tie in with what they're doing. But we also made sure that it was lined up with the brand identity of Jeep, and it's built on the same principles, authenticity. We made sure we paid attention to those details, the scallops, not losing the finishes of what Macintosh would sort of do. For example, the speaker post that you see in the bottom right-hand corner, but a lot of the refined detail that we bring as Jeep, proud Jeep owners and designers of the vehicle. That detail in the mesh speaker at the top is a very premium feel and seen throughout the interior. We've also paid attention to things like the branding of the MC logo that's within the amp. We put it into the subwoofer grill, of course, because our amp is not exposed. However, on the speaker grill on the door, we have brought in a lit badge. So that lighting that you see, it's Macintosh. The light is off when the vehicle is off. When you open the door, that light comes on, and if you don't start the vehicle, that light turns off. It's similar to what you would see in the Macintosh home audio. Again, this is something new towards the automotive industry in terms of having a lit branding for a speaker badge, but it's very homogeneous with the Macintosh brand and fits within the Jeep design language. A lot of the lighting as well, we paid attention to bringing in a little bit more ambient lighting into the vehicle. So at night, it's not just your radio and your ICS that's providing light within the interior, but we've added true ambient lighting tucked in underneath the metal spheres on the IP in the doors, front and rear. And you've got 5 different color personalizations within the head unit that you can select. The lighting in the floor is also separated from the lighting up above, so you have 2 zones where you can control 2 different areas of lighting in different colors, or you can sync them all together. One thing I'd like to do is take you through the vehicle technically has not widened. The track of the vehicle is widened, but the interior hasn't widened, so it's not larger than the outgoing Grand Cherokee. But the interior feels much more spacious, more grand, and we wanted to do that intentionally. And how we did that is, I'm going to click here, and you're going to see a couple of sketch lines that flow in, overlapping the image of the Grand Cherokee. And kind of what you see here is the IP wing, cross-car wing that I was describing, is cutting into the door of the Grand Cherokee, current Grand Cherokee, which that surface sweeps in. And what we've done is we've made that surface run forward and have the IP fill in that space. So the IP feels wider, but also from the center moving outboard, the center where the radio is placed is closer to you, easier reach, I should say, with a 10-inch display. And as you move outboard in the IP, the IP moves away from you. So it gives you that feeling of larger space in the front cabin. And as the sketch kind of fills in, you'll see that, you know, adding the warmth, a little bit more wood, I should say a lot more wood within the interior than the outgoing vehicle, but that adds to the warmth with the Tupelo colored interior in the Summit Reserve is what we're seeing here, where you have the wrapped IP lowers, wrapped door lowers, wrapped seat back panels. The Tupelo color we feel is a very rich color. It's actually derived. We kind of honed that in from Tupelo honey, and it's a very rich honey, very exclusive. And we feel very proud and fitting that it fits this interior. It gives the warmth of the interior with the American walnut wood that you're seeing here. And we don't lose that warmth when we go into a black interior. Typically that does happen, but that warmth is maintained by that American walnut deco wood pieces. On a cold day, of course, that cold day, sunny, or that snowy day doesn't happen in Miami, but in other areas, when you have a limited price class like we're seeing here, it's a light interior, you don't lose the warmth, you don't lose the soft appeal. Even though it's not leather wrapped IP surfaces, it does still feel very premium. We haven't lost the design, the shape is still very, very modern. Looking at the overland, the step up, again, it's steel gray interiors, premium seating, massage seats, which are controlled through a switch on the door just above the seat memory, and then everything else happens within your display. That light interior is very important because, of course, the light headliner, when you have a 3-row, as Scott was mentioning, it just feels grander, it feels bigger, and it's just about the color and the materials that we put in. These seats are perforated. You have venting within the seats. You have active bolsters in the seats as well. That gives you a little bit more comfort. We've stepped it up when you go into the Summit Reserve, where you have not only registered perf, but you also have quilting within the seat. There's double diamond stitch patterns, so every other stitch is doubled up. So it gives you a very unique pattern within the seat bolsters and the door bolsters within the Summit Reserve. We did not, think of the second row passengers as second class at all. In the Overland and the Summit, you get a center console that is very premium feeling. The seats are also adjustable sliding, so you can tailor your space within that environment. In the Summit Reserve, as shown here, the seat backs are wrapped in leather and stitched. And the third row, as Scott mentioned as well, again, our engineers, 6'4". Also, I wear a size 12. The director of interior design wears a size 14. There's enough foot clearance space, even with the console, all the way across. So please, whenever you step into the vehicle, please explore that. Move the second row seat back and test that feature out. It's very, very premium. Again, the third row customers, we did not forget the armrests in the Overland and Summit are soft. My daughter has sat back there and put her head on the armrest and just fallen asleep and been comfortable, and it's a really nice feeling. You fold the second row seats down, you flip the armrest forward, and you get a flat low floor. The other thing here to notice as well is, with the 4-zone controller to control some of the air in the rear cabin, we've placed the air vents in the pillars, so the B pillars, the C pillars, and what that allowed us to do is to make sure we didn't have ducts running, through the headliner area. So there's plenty of headroom, and you'll see that when you get into the third row. And that's really, a little bit of the design. I wish I could be there to walk you through a lot of those little details, but I'm sure you will explore quite a bit and enjoy the vehicle.
Wonderful, thank you so much. All right, you guys, we'll open the floor to some Q&A. Okay, Jaime, I'll bring this microphone over to you.
This is a question for Dwayne, of course, a very popular name here in Miami. Dwayne, I remember that we went to Dash once, Kimberly. You took us there once, didn't you? Yes. And I wanted to ask you a question related to the fact that Jeep is probably the most global American brand. The products that you make are sold in...
I'm sorry, it's hard to hear, sorry.
Yes, what I was saying is that probably Jeep is today the most global American brand, and the products that you design and Jeep makes are being sold in, of course, in North America and Europe and the Middle East, and also in the West, in China and other countries. Did you take that into consideration? Were you aware, and it was a challenge to know that the product that you're designing here in the US is going to be sold and has to be liked by people all over the world?
Absolutely. It does have a weight on your shoulders when you think about it. When I first was made aware that it was going to be a vehicle I was responsible for, It hit me quite hard. You kind of let that go, and you do what you know you can do. Just you focus on not necessarily trends that are trendy within today's world. You have to always think on the cusp. And we have a great team of designers, color and trim, and engineers and surfacing team that push and pull. I don't always have the right answer. My designers don't always have the right answer. Maybe someone in the surfacing team does, or an engineering team. And so that's the back and forth, the contrast of opinion. We went back and forth for years as we developed this interior. So, a lot of that thought went into it in terms of who we're competing against. The Germans, I don't look at Audi and Mercedes as out of reach or out of touch. Jeep has, like I said, it's a strong brand name, it's known well worldwide, and we can compete with the top.
You go there first, but then I got
Pricing?
Pricing, Scott, did you want to?
Yeah, you have
Whoever.
the pricing in front of you.
Kimberly, I'll get that information to you for pricing. We don't have that at our fingertips.
Okay, do we have another question over here?
Dwayne, I can hear your passion for your work. I appreciate it. It's awesome. You love it so much. I want to hear some more about the shift knob. What was the other shift knob? You said you cried. I want to hear about it. Thank you.
It was, I'll just say this, it was much more simplistic. So a lot of it is you fight for, you have a sketch, you have a vision, and sometimes when you get into reality and the engineers come to you and they say, we don't think we can get there. We can't build this. And then it's like, okay, I have to change my design. Well, I start asking, well, why? Why can't we? And then I start becoming an engineer myself. I start learning the lingo. But they also start feeding into the passion. We make models, we go back and forth. We touch and feel it, and I show it and have them feel it, and you're like, yeah, it feels good. And I'm like, yeah, now make it. So there's that tussle, right? It's, I'll just say, if it had to go another way, I wouldn't be necessarily pleased, but I probably would be the only one. I'm sure it would have looked as good as what we've created.
And just to be fair to Dwayne, I mean, the brand is probably part of the problem. I mean, when we say we want the biggest screen available, for example, in the new Grand Cherokee, the packaging to the design work, the engineers and the design work were at odds there. So, what was not an option for us is to have, essentially an iPad, to the dash and out of place. It had to be seamlessly integrated in the technology, into the wood, into the natural materials. So, of course, I'm going to ask for the world's best and most beautiful shifter knob. And I just walk away and just let the fight ensue. But I can assure you that that's just one of many examples. It came down to the stitching, every aspect of the interior design that we were all so passionate and just wanted the very best and knew that our customers expected it. I have to admittedly say that I was probably part of that problem. So sorry, Dwayne.
No, that's good.
Okay, Jose.
Hi there. I want to ask about how is so important the third row? Give us some context. And also, if I'm not wrong, there are only 7 seats, not 8. And why?
He wants to know
Sorry, I think it's breaking up.
how important the third row is when we made that decision. And then there's 6 and 7 seat options, but no 8.
Yeah, so the third row accommodates 2 passengers. So it's a 2, and 2 configuration for the 6-pass, or there's an optional second row bench seat that accommodates 3 for the 7-pass configuration. And I'm sorry, Kimberly, what was the first part of that question?
And then just how important do you feel it is to have a 3-row when traditionally it's been 2 rows, and everybody who loves it has loved having those 2 rows?
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, we've remained that way for nearly 30 years, in spite of the segment, migrating to this 3-row, more family-oriented vehicle. And really, we've been able to satisfy the best of both worlds. We know that there is our core Grand Cherokee customers are going to really want and like the proportions, the size, and everything that a two-row Grand Cherokee offers. And later this year, we'll be announcing that all-new two-row Grand Cherokee, which we've already announced, will come in a 4xe plug-in hybrid version. But it was just difficult that there were so many customers and shoppers that wanted to buy a Grand Cherokee. The consideration was there, but they did reject the vehicle based on the seating capacity. So we knew we had an opportunity with a much broader part of the audience that we just weren't able to address. So the addition of the third row was just, that was dictated by the marketplace, but at the same time, we'll maintain a two-row configuration for those loyal customers over the last 3 decades.
Great, all right, thank you. Someone else? Anyone else? Okay, right here.
Has any consideration been given to offering the 4xe powertrain in the Grand Cherokee L?
No announcements today on the Grand Cherokee L, but what I can tell you is that when the two-row debuts later this year, we will be launching it with the 4xe electrification. So more news to come with electrification on all the future Jeeps in the very near term.